Hello, listeners. It's Gunter here with some exciting news. We're on the lookout for sponsors to join us on our incredible journey with Inspired Change with Gunter. If your organisation cares deeply about meaningful conversations around masculinity, self development, and mental health, we'd love to partner with you. Our podcast has a wonderful, dedicated audience committed to personal growth and positive social change. By sponsoring Inspired Change with Gunter, your brand will connect with listeners who truly value thoughtful discussion and support initiatives that promote real transformation. We're incredibly proud to be ranked number one in Australia and number 5 in the USA on FeedSpot's top men's mental health podcasts. For more information on how to become a sponsor, please reach out to Miranda Spiegner Sapon, our showrunner and executive producer. We'd love to explore how we can work together to inspire change. Now, thank you for your continued support, and let's keep inspiring change together.
You're listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. To guide us through the intricacies and intersections of emotions, relationships, and male identity is renowned psychologist, author, and speaker Gunter Swoboda. This is Inspire Change.
Before I begin the actual podcast, I would like to respectfully acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land on which I work. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders past and present. Welcome everybody to another episode of Inspired Change with Gunter. I'm your host. Welcome everybody to Inspired Change with Gunter. I'm your host. I'm a psychologist, I'm a coach, writer, and I'm also the founder of Making Good Men Great, a movement to help men change for the positive. So what's in today's episode? Well, this is one that I believe most of us men need to take a lot of notice of. Not only just for ourselves, but also dealing and teaching our sons. So what am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about emotional literacy, which is about how we name, understand, and communicate our emotions without shame, without fear, and without falling into being really reactive. And what do I mean by reactive? Essentially blowing up. So let's take a dive into this extremely important topic. Now, it's all very well to begin to learn this as an adult, but here's the thing. If we're really good at this particular issue, we're going to be teaching this to our children, especially young boys. So let's start with the basics. What is emotional literacy? So essentially, and it's in its most simplistic form, it's the ability to identify what you're feeling, be able to make sense of it, and then be able to express it in a way that builds connection rather than creating conflict, especially seriously negative and toxic conflict. But here's the kicker. Most of us as men were really never taught how to do that. Not only were we not taught to do that, we were actually sort of given leeway to inhibit, repress, or suppress our emotions. So I could even argue that many of us were taught to do the opposite, in fact, to shut up. Comments like, toughen up, don't cry. Anger is power, vulnerability is a weakness. So essentially, from being small boys to men in our maturity, we fall prey to the social conditioning of suppressing, repressing, or exploding our emotions. So this conditioning actually has deep consequences, seriously deep ones. Emotional illiteracy doesn't just create distance in our relationships. It actually, when you think about it, isolates us from ourselves. When I can't name what I'm feeling, I can't regulate it. And if I can't regulate it, I react instead of responding in my relationships with others or within myself. And it's in this context that reactivity becomes the default. We feel guilt, we feel shame, we feel anger, we shut down, we blame. And this creates a cycle of disconnection. But fortunately, and this is where it's really important to pay attention, there's a way out. The first step in emotional literacy is learning to name what it is that we feel. Now, if you're a parent, especially a parent of a boy or boys, a lot of you will go, yeah, but when they become teenagers, they sort of shut down. They grunt more than they express, and there's some truth to that. But here's the first thing. One is they do that because we let them do it. Secondly, they often don't have sufficient encouragement to verbalise what it is that's going on for them. It's really, really important that we as the adults model this and don't let them just stay stuck in the grunting phase. Even grown men, you ask them, how are you? And generally you get a binary, good or bad. Maybe a little bit more, but generally speaking, it hinges on that. And in my work as a therapist and as a coach or a mentor, one of the things that I try and do as much as possible is get the person to introspect, to look inside and get in touch with what they're feeling. So some of this comes down to making it even just a little bit more expansive. So how are you feeling? I'm feeling frustrated. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling ashamed. Or the big one often is, I'm feeling lonely. When we begin to expand our emotional vocabulary, we begin to access a fuller picture of our inner world. And that clarity is empowering. And it may start by checking in with what's happening to me somatically. So where am I, feeling something? What sensation is there? Is it tension? Is it sort of a heaviness? And what would you call that heaviness or that tension? What does it connect with? So let me be very, very clear. This isn't about becoming soft or feminized, as some guys and some parts of the internet try to express it. This is about becoming fluent in your own experience so you can respond rather than react. There's a reason why often boys have a great deal of trouble at school writing essays, because their vocabulary is restricted. They might have it going on in their head, but they're scared or they're inhibited or they're not in touch with how to express that. So when we go from responding rather than reacting, we do something that's also very important. We begin to regulate what it is that we're feeling. And it's the difference between saying, I'm not okay and I need some space versus get away from me before I explode. So how do I communicate? How do I express emotions, feelings in a healthy way? Well, many of you've probably been exposed to the thing. We start with I statements. I feel angry when I'm dismissed. I feel hurt when my opinion isn't valued. Now, that's radically different from saying you're always ignoring me. The first opens a door to a dialogue. The second slams it shut. So here's another tool. Pause before you respond. The space between stimulus and response is where growth lives. Emotional regulation isn't about suppression. It's about channeling. It's about saying, I feel this strongly. I see it. I accept it. Now I choose what to do with it. And that's where true strength lies, authentic strength. So let me roll this into talking about emotional responsiveness. And that is the ability to stay engaged, especially in emotionally charged situations. And if we're in any form of relationship, that is going to happen. So let me just make it very, very clear. Responsiveness is very different from reactivity. Reactiveness is a knee-jerk. It's driven by old scripts, wounds, and ego. Responsiveness is conscious, and it's grounded in presence and in intention. And it is often enveloped in curiosity about wanting to know what the other person's experience is about. So here's something very profound. The more emotionally literate we become, the more resilient we become. Why? Because our self-awareness increases, our flexibility in how we communicate increases, we become more adaptable to the exchange in the relationship in terms of responding to the other person, right? And then eventually the next step is resilience. Now, this isn't just individual work. It's what I refer to, it's relational work. Emotional literacy builds trust. It creates safety. It deepens intimacy. In the Making Good Men Great framework, this is what I call moving from defensiveness to relational presence. When a man is emotionally literate, he doesn't disappear, dominate, or deflect, or control, or coerce. He engages with empathy, with clarity, and with courage. And you might say, why courage? Well, because it takes guts, it takes courage to respond openly. Now, if you're listening and thinking, well, this feels really new or it feels really hard, that's okay. Emotional literacy isn't something most of us learn at school or from our dads. But it's a skill. And like any skill, this can be learned. It can be practiced and it can be strengthened. So here's what I suggest. And you probably heard some of these suggestions before about other emotional, psychological, relational issues. Journal your emotions at the end of each day. Learn to name what you feel, even if it's messy. Remember, perfectionism, doesn't get us anywhere, doesn't teach us anything other than to be scared. And talk to a mate or a coach or a therapist about what's really going on inside. And again, that does take courage too. But it's courage that yields great results. So the more we practice, the more fluent we become. You know, the whole point in writing, let me go back to writing essays. Why do boys not write essays well, or they're scared of writing essays well? Because they're so caught up in having suppressed themselves or having been repressed in a way, controlled, that suddenly someone wants them to open up and write shit down. That's not going to happen. And this is a message to teachers. If you want them to be expressive, we need to show them how. And how is not going, so what do you think about Hamlet? Most of them will go, oh, yeah, I don't know. Or, he's a really weird character. Now, I'm possibly being unfair, and for those of you who obviously don't do that, and I'm using the extreme to extrapolate a point that I'm making. It's not the subject matter, it's the process that really counts. It's not whether that, that poem is well written or that story is well written. It's about helping someone to be able to be in touch with their reaction to something, to their response to something, to their feelings to something, to their sensations in their body to something. And this is where great teachers shine. They're able to help students get in touch with their emotional state with regards to what it is that they're being exposed to.
Now for a short break for some gratitude.
Hello, Devana here. This week at Inspire Change, we'd like to show our gratitude to our listeners in Zambia, Africa. Your support is greatly appreciated. Congratulations for making our top 10 global listeners list. As always, please remember to like, follow, subscribe, and share. And most importantly, keep inspiring positive social change.
So again, let me reiterate, the more we practice, the more fluent we become. And from there, the more relationally available, present, and more powerful we become. And more empowered. Not in a patriarchal sense, but in the grounded, authentic sense. So that wraps it up for today's episode on emotional literacy. Have a think about it, read it, explore it, practice it. And as always, let me give you a little bit of a challenge. Notice what you're feeling. Name it. Sit with it. Then choose how you want to respond to it. Is it a response within yourself, about yourself, or is it that you want to speak out with somebody, speak with them? And remember, this isn't a weakness. This is a powerful behaviour. This is the kind of strength the world needs more of, rather than political games or one-upmanship or threat, control, coercion. Now, if you found today's episode helpful, please follow, rate, and share Inspire Change with Gunter. And don't forget, if you want to take this journey deeper, check out what we've got to offer on Making Good Men Great. Remember, the second edition of Making Good Men Great, Surfing a New Masculinity, that my wife and I put together is coming out. And one of the things that's going to be happening in the future, I'm going to be rolling out coaching programs and education programs that are based and steeped within the movement of Making Good Men Great. So until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, and as always, keep inspiring change. Love to hear from you. And if you're interested, please check out my work on www.guntersvoboda.com or www.goodmengreat.com.
Thank you for listening to Inspire Change, a broadcast that strives to educate, motivate, and empower men to challenge traditions of masculinity. For more information on the Making Good Men Great movement, or for individual or group coaching sessions with Gunter, visit goodmengreat.com.